heavy metal door slammed shut with an echo that seemed to travel forever through the empty corridor. Then, a stark, cold silence fell over everything. A young girl's voice cut through the darkness in a terrified whisper. "The lights went out 3 minutes ago. The last thing I saw was Ribisi's face frozen in a scream she couldn't let out. "The last thing I heard wasn't the fire alarm or the shots. It was the sound of the janitor's keys jingling right outside our door." And then he started to whistle. A faint, tuneless whistling echoed down the hallway before fading into nothing. Westhaven High School was a sleek, modern building of glass and steel, perched on a green hill overlooking a quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon. It was the kind of place where the biggest worry was a pop quiz in Mr. Harrison's history class, or if the cafeteria was serving its infamous mystery meat lasagna again. It was a Tuesday, 1:15 in the afternoon. Just another day. In room 204, Miss Ribisi's 11th grade history class was in a state of comfortable boredom. She was discussing the Treaty of Versailles while most students struggled to stay awake. In the back row, Maya Chen was doodling in the corner of her notebook, drawing a complex pattern of interlocking stars. Her best friend, Chloe, was subtly texting under her desk, her phone hidden in her hoodie pocket. Chloe whispered to Maya with a quiet laugh, "Jake Peterson just fell asleep. He's drooling on his textbook." Maya whispered back without looking up from her doodle, "Gross. Tell him to lean the other way." Outside, the world was normal. Then the tone of the day shifted. It started as a low, muffled pop. Some might have mistaken it for a car backfiring in the student parking lot, but it was followed by another, and another, pop, pop, pop. 3 distinct, sharp sounds in the distance. They were wrong. They were too fast, too rhythmic. And as Ribisi stopped mid-sentence, "What on earth?" She walked to her classroom door and peered out into the hallway. For a second, everything was still. Students were looking around, confused. Then, the fire alarm erupted with a piercing, shrieking wail that was absolutely deafening. The fire alarm. The signal. Get out. Line up. Go to the football field. Instinct took over. Chairs scraped. Students stood up, grabbing their bags. Chloe stood up, grabbing her stuff. Finally, a break. "Come on, Maya." Maya shook her head. "Something's wrong, Chloe." That sound. Those weren't firecrackers. Then, over the alarm, a new sound emerged. A boy's voice, screaming. Not in fun. In pure, animal terror. The scream was cut off abruptly. The scream died as quickly as it started. As Ribisi's face went pale, she slammed her door shut and locked it with a trembling hand. She ran to her desk, pulled out her phone, and her eyes scanned the room, counting heads. Her voice was a sharp, terrified whisper as she fought to remain calm. Okay, everyone. This is not a drill." Yet in the corner, away from the door and the windows. "Now, move." Panic flooded the room in seconds. Chloe grabbed Maya's arm, her nails digging in. They huddled with 11 other students in the far corner, behind Ms. Ribisi's desk and a row of filing cabinets. The teacher turned off the projector. The only light now came from the thin, gray strip of window on the door and the weak sun struggling through the blinds. Ms. Ribis put a finger to her lips, then pointed to her phone, showing them the screen. It was a text from the school's alert system. Maya read the screen in a horrified whisper. Code red. Secure immediate locations. Lockdown. This is not a drill. Code red. The words they practiced twice a year, but never truly believed. It meant one thing. An active threat inside the building, inside their school. Suddenly, the fire alarm stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise. It was a thick, suffocating blanket. For a full minute, no one moved. No one breathed. They just listened to the frantic thumping of their own hearts. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Running, not the chaotic pounding of fleeing students. These were deliberate. Measured. The heavy thud of boots on the linoleum floor. They grew louder, passing right by their door. Then they stopped. The footsteps stopped directly outside room 204. Maya's heart stopped with them. She could see Miss Ribisi's hand, white-knuckled, gripping a pair of scissors from her desk drawer. Through the narrow strip of window on the door, a shadow passed. It was tall and broad. They heard a faint jingling, like a set of keys, a janitor's keys. A student whimpered in a terrified whisper, "Is that Mr. Henderson? Is he okay?" Then a voice came from the hallway, not a shout. A calm, quiet, almost friendly voice. "Come on out. The fire alarm went off. You have to evacuate. It's not safe in there." A soft, tuneless whistle began. It was a simple, happy little tune, completely at odds with the situation. The whistle was cheerful, horrifyingly cheerful. No one in the room moved. Miss Ribisi shook her head violently, her eyes wide with warning. The shadow at the door didn't move for a long, agonizing moment. Then the whistling faded as the footsteps retreated down the hall. Chloe let out a shaky breath. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" S. Ribisi's voice trembled. She, not a word. He might come back. In the distance another sound emerged, a door being forced open, the crash of furniture, a single, terrified scream, cut short. The scream came from the floor below, from the science wing. It was followed by a sound they would never forget. 2 gunshots, flat and final. Maya felt Chloe's whole body shake. With a silent sob, tears streamed down her own face, hot and silent. They were prey, hiding in the dark, listening to the hunt. Minutes crawled by like hours. 1:30 became 1:45. The distant sounds of chase grew sporadic. Sirens were there, but they sounded impossibly far away, like they were in another world. The threat was here, in their world, walking their hallways. Maya's leg had gone to sleep, but she was too scared to move. She stared at the sliver of light under the door, hyper-aware of every tiny sound. The creak of the building settling, the hum of the ventilation system, the soft, terrified breathing of her classmates. Then came a heavy, metallic clang from somewhere nearby, followed by the squeak of wheels. A janitor's cart. It squeaked slowly down the hall, passing their room. They could hear the slosh of a mop bucket, the rattle of bottles. It was so bizarre, so mundane, it was terrifying. It stopped right outside. They heard a spray bottle squirt. Then a rag wiping the wall. The whistling started again. The same tuneless, happy little song. It went on for an eternity. Squeak, squirt, wipe. Squeak, squirt, wipe. And that horrible whistling. The whistling and cleaning sounds continued. Then they stopped. There was a soft thump against their door, as if someone had just leaned on it. The voice came again, muffled and thoughtful, as if talking to a friend. "Cam, room 204, history. Miss Ribisi. She was always nice to me. Gave me a Christmas card once." Maya's blood ran cold. He knew the room, the teacher. Chloe's hand found hers in the dark and squeezed so hard it hurt. Miss Ribisi was frozen, the scissors held up like a talisman. A key slid into the lock. The metallic scrape of a key turning in the lock echoed through the silent room. The voice continued. "You know, I always liked the quiet ones, the ones in the back, who just draw in their notebooks." Maya let out a sharp, audible intake of breath. He was talking about her. He'd seen her through the window. He knew. The doorknob turned. A sliver of light from the hallway pierced the darkness of the room. The door pushed open an inch. They saw a single eye, dark and gleaming, peering in. The door creaked open a few more inches with agonizing slowness. The door swung open. Standing there was a man in a janitor's uniform. His name patch read Dale. He was holding a gun in one hand, hanging loosely at his side, and a spray bottle of glass cleaner in the other. He looked at the terrified group huddled in the corner. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, sad even. His voice was soft and conversational. "I'm not gonna hurt you, S. Ribisi. I just need you all to be quiet for a little while longer. The police are setting up a perimeter. It's almost over, one way or another. One way or another." The words hung in the air, Miss Ribisi, her hand shaking violently, held the scissors up. It was a pathetic gesture, and they all knew it. Her voice cracked with fear. "Stay back, Dale, please." Dale sighed, ignoring the scissors. "I brought my daughter to this school. Emily, she was in the third grade. She loathed the playground, the swings. You remember her, Miss Ribisi? She was in your class for a field trip once. She drew you a picture. You put it on your bulletin board." Maya's eyes darted to the bulletin board. There it was, a faded crayon drawing of a woman with red hair standing next to a son. Miss Ribis's eyes filled with tears of a different kind, recognition, pity. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Emily. She was a bright little girl." "Dale, what happened?" For a fraction of a second, Dale's face contorted. "The world happened. People happened. It doesn't matter now. She's gone." And the world just kept spinning. Her teachers sent flowers. Her classmates drew pictures. And then they forgot. Everyone forgot. He raised the gun slightly, not pointing it at them, just showing it. "So I decided I would make them remember. I would make the whole city remember. I would make the news remember. And when they talk about today, they'll talk about all of us, about Emily." In the distance, the sound of a megaphone crackled to life. "Police! This is the police! The building is surrounded! Come out with your hands up! The police were here!" Dale looked towards the window, then back at the class. He smiled, a small, sad smile. "It's time." He took a step forward, and Ribisi, with a cry of desperate courage, threw the scissors. They clattered uselessly against his metal cart. Dale didn't even flinch. He looked at Ms. Ribisi, then at the terrified students. He raised the gun, and at that moment, a brilliant white light and a deafening roar filled the room. The window exploded inward. A flashbang. The SWAT team. Maya was blind and deaf, her world reduced to a silent white static. She felt Chloe fall on top of her, and she hit the floor, covering her head. Through the ringing, she heard muffled, distorted shouts, voices calling out, "Clear, clear, hands, show me your hands." She felt hands on her, pulling her up. She was being dragged. Her vision returned in patches. She saw the broken window, police in tactical gear swarming the room. She saw Mrs. Ribisi being helped out, her face a mask of shock. She saw the corner where they had been hiding, now a scene of chaos. And she saw Dale. He was on the floor, not moving, a pool of red spreading beneath him. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. He looked peaceful. He looked like he had finally found what he was looking for. Outside, the world was blindingly bright, red and blue lights strobing everywhere. Police cars, ambulances, news vans. Parents were screaming, rushing a barrier. Maya was put on a stretcher, a blanket wrapped around her. Chloe was right next to her, holding her hand so tightly their knuckles were white. A paramedic was asking her questions she couldn't understand. She just stared at the building, at the shattered window of room 204, the window they had just been pulled from. It looked like a dark, empty eye socket in the face of the school. The news would call it a tragedy. They would say the shooter, a school janitor named Dale Miller, was a loner, a troubled soul. They would talk about his daughter, Emily, who had died of leukemia 2 years before. They would talk about the 6 people he killed before the police arrived. They would talk about the heroes, like Ms. Ribisi. They would use words like closure and healing. But for Maya, lying in a hospital bed hours later, there were no words. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that dark eye peering through the crack in the door. Every time there was silence, she heard that whistling. 10 years passed since the Westhaven tragedy. Maya became a teacher at an elementary school in another state. She loved her job. She loved her students. She kept a small photograph on her desk of her and Chloe at their college graduation. Chloe was a graphic designer in Chicago now. They talked once a month. Life went on. It had to. One afternoon, during a fire drill, the alarms were loud. The children filed out holding hands, just as they practiced. Maya was the last one out of her classroom, making sure no one was left behind. She pulled the heavy metal door closed behind her, and the automatic lock clicked into place. The hallway was empty, echoing with the fading shouts of children, and in that sudden, cavernous silence she heard it. Not from the hallway, not from the PAS system, but from somewhere deep inside her own memory, a phantom sound that would never, ever fade. A soft, tuneless whistle. A happy little tune. The whistling stopped abruptly, replaced by the sharp slam of a heavy metal door, and then there was only silence.